Welcome everyone to this CELPIP Speaking Part 4, Making Predictions Analysis. Now, I'm just here in the Speaking Part 4 section of the CELPIP library. And before we get started, I do want to remind you that Part 4 focuses more on CLB 4 to 6. What does that mean? Well, it means that if you need to get CLB 4, 5, or 6, then you need to do well in this part because this part will be easier for lower levels to speak about, okay? For example, the pictures are usually something familiar, common situations, and also the vocabulary and the language that you can use doesn't have to be so difficult, okay? And so it will be easier for you to speak for part 4. Now, if you need to get CLB 7 or higher, well, this part will not affect whether you get 7 or higher so much as part 1, 6, or 7. Those parts you can really show your knowledge. But in part 4, because it's an easier question, then higher levels should speak easily about it. And they can usually speak level 7 or higher easily for part 4. Okay? All right. And I also want to remind you about this tips and strategies video. This video will give you some more details about what tips and strategies you can use to answer part 4 more effectively. How to read the question, what to focus on, and what structure you can use. And actually, that video will explain more clearly some of the tips and strategies that I will use, okay? So I will leave a link in the description box to that video, okay? So then, let's look at today's example, a hospital. So everyone, this will be a CLB 7-9 example, okay? Now, when we look at that here, we do have 4 sections in this sample lesson, okay? The video analysis, which we're watching right now. Vocabulary building, very good for lower levels to improve their vocabulary, okay? And you'll show the picture here. We'll have some words. And then complete the sentence, okay? And that will really help you with vocabulary and expression. Very good exercise. And also we have grammar building, okay? Lower levels. Very important for part 4 will be will. Will is very important, okay? And also we have some grammar exercises here that you can do by completing each sentence. So great practice for you. Okay, and then we'll get to today's question practice, okay? Now, about some of the tips and strategies that I will be focusing on the most for speaking part 4. The first one, everyone, is about using future tense. It's very important. Part 4 is making predictions. So for that, we need to use future tense, okay? And, well, simple future is will, I will do something, or going to, I'm going to do something. And you can use both of these for part 4 speaking, okay? Just going to is always stronger, and will is more about predictions, okay? But you can use both. Also, if you can, higher levels, we can use may or might. It might happen tomorrow. It may happen. Or it could happen. So that's something that higher levels could do. Also, we are going to be looking at organizing our answer. Okay. We want to avoid repeating ideas. We want to sequence ideas. Okay. And very important, we want to give a complete answer in 1 minute. And we are going to be focusing on that. And then for organizing our response, okay, I find this is a really good one. Okay. We have here a way to start. Okay. And then at least 3 ideas. That would be good. But always it's very good if you can connect ideas, everyone. Connecting ideas in the picture, that works really well. I'm going to explain that in the analysis. Okay? All right. And we should always think of ideas which are common to the situation. Something that is common, not something that just won't happen. Okay? Very good. So let's get started with today's analysis. So then, here we are, part 4, making predictions, preparation time 30 seconds, speaking time 1 minute. In this picture, what do you think will most probably happen next? And everyone, it's the same picture as part 3, so nothing really new. But of course, just what will happen, predictions, the future, okay? And as I said before, part 4, for level 7 to 9, it should be easy for you to speak level 7. Level 7s can give many ideas with future tense about the picture. Now, the big question will be for 8 or 9, it's what ideas we give, okay? Usually 7s to 8s, they can give some general ideas and speak well, but that's the difficult part. For higher levels, we need to try to say stronger ideas for this part, not just the general ones. That's what we need to do. Answer the question clearly, directly, of course, connection, that will be easy. And so will grammar. Grammar, in general, using future tenses is pretty simple for 7 to 9s. Maybe using modalities and passive could be more difficult. I'll try to do that. Of course, we need to have more fluency because we're going to be giving more ideas, so we need more fluency. Okay, and that's what we're going to try and show. All right. So let's start by introducing the question, which will be very straightforward. I think several interesting situations will happen next. Okay, very good start. Okay, very good structure sentence. Let's see what our first idea is here. Okay. Firstly, I think the doctor will tell the orderly to drop off some sanitation supplies to one patient's room. So he's going to drop them off. Then after that, he may go on his coffee break because he seems tired. Oh, okay. All right. So it looks like it's this one, not me. No, it's not that one because this is sanitation supplies here. But he does look tired. Okay. So we're looking at this situation here, just at the front. Okay, and I think it's a very good example to start off. We are bringing out some higher level vocabulary already with orderly, right? Lower levels, they might not know that one, or probably not. Okay. Also using some, phrasal verbs, drop them off. And look here, we're using modalities already. Okay, modals of possibility, may, might, could, may go. Okay, so that's a good idea here. May go. And seems tired. Also, we're pointing at exactly here. We're giving more ideas to describe, and that's what higher levels do. I wouldn't say this one is so high level, okay, except for using modalities and maybe this phrasal verb over here. Doesn't seem so high. But we are doing, of course, we are showing our good knowledge so far. Let's see what's next to see if we can give a higher level idea. Okay. Secondly, perhaps the physician in the lab will diagnose the patient with a fractured arm. Okay, stronger idea here. This is something that maybe health professionals will know, but we can see that saying diagnose and a fractured arm, that's stronger. Lower levels would say will see that the patient has a broken arm. That's low level. But diagnose the patient with a fractured arm. The same thing with physician and doctor. Even 7 to 8s, you won't think of saying physician, but here it is. Okay? Already that's higher than over here. And again, that higher vocabulary. Okay, so he's going to call the patient from the waiting room and tell them that they need to get their arm casted. Definitely higher levels. Well, maybe you are a health professional and you know about casted, okay? But even level 7s to 8s, they won't know that. Get their arm casted, that is a 9 or higher knowledge, okay? So, very good here. So he's going to tell the patient, right, they need to get their arm casted, okay? And then we have another connection here, very good connection. Then the patient might feel very disappointed because they won't be able to work due to the accident. Okay, very strong idea. I'm going to say that this is the kind of idea that we need for level 9 or higher. Okay? We need to give strong vocabulary, diagnose, fractured arm, casted. We need to explain an idea more. Okay? We need to use higher level grammar, might feel, won't be able to, okay? And also, I haven't said yet, higher levels will look at a situation and they'll be able to think of a higher level prediction. Lower levels, they won't be able to think that they need to get their arm casted. Okay? But we did here because we're higher level. Higher levels, they are able to think of predictions that can or could happen in this situation. That's why they are 9 or higher. And that's what we've done here. This situation in the first one, it seems a little bit more like 7 to 8 to me, because we can always think of that. It seems general, that situation. But here, this situation where we expanded, okay, this is a higher level situation or prediction. I hope that you can understand that. Okay. Now, also, I want to say that if you are a healthcare professional, then this could be a simple situation for you to think. But if you don't work in healthcare, it will be more difficult. And that's why it's higher level. Okay. This happens a lot in different fields. Okay. So, very good, strong idea here. Let's get to our last one. Okay. Lastly, I think the nurse and patient in the wheelchair will help the elderly woman walk to the physiotherapy room. Again, strong. Because she might be scheduled to get some physio treatment for her knees. Strong. Again, this idea, it's strong because of the situation. We don't see a physio room here. We don't see treatment. We don't see that. Okay, we don't see it because it's not visibly clear, but we have to, or higher levels, they can see that based on the situation. Okay? We're in the hospital. Okay? We see an elderly woman walking with a walker. Maybe she has a problem with her knees, right? And what do these kinds of patients need? Well, maybe they need physiotherapy. So maybe that's what's going on here. Higher levels, we need to basically, I'll use that expression instead of think outside the box. Well, here literally think outside the box, or I guess we can say think outside the picture or think outside this basic picture. We need to think outside of the picture. Higher levels. This is a hospital. What's going to happen here? Get his arm casted. What's going to happen here? Physiotherapy. Or even in the wheelchair, right? So very good. Again, higher level idea. We're taking the elderly woman to the physiotherapy room because, well, she might be scheduled. Let's bring out our level 9 vocabulary. Oh, sorry, level 9 grammar. Future passive. If you can use future passive like we did here, well, you're definitely level 9 or higher, okay? Now, I'm saying, everyone, this is an example of 9 or higher. I'm not saying 7s to 8. 7s to 8 is still low intermediate or intermediate, okay? We don't need to think or worry about future passive. But if you need to get level 9 or higher, then you need to bring your level 9 or higher language, like future passive, might be scheduled. Okay? All right. And might be scheduled to get some physiotherapy. Okay. And then what's here? Then after the treatment, the physio is going to walk the patient back to her room and provide the nurse with a medical update on her walking condition. Excellent. Again, we expanded. Again, level 9s, they can expand very well. Even 7 to 8s, we don't need to expand here. For 7 to 8s, we don't need that expansion. Even what we said here, it's great for 7 to 8s. Okay? But level 9s, we need to expand ideas, thinking or imagining what is likely to happen. According to this picture, just to be clear again, it's likely that this woman has bad knees because she's using a walker. And it's likely that she'll get some physio. And it's likely that after the physio, she is going to be walked back to her room. And it's likely that the physio is going to provide the nurse with an update on her medical condition, because that is likely to happen. And that's what happens in the situation. So everyone, let's be clear that that's what higher levels need to do. That's why this example is 9 or higher. Very strong ideas. Well, the last two. Also, let me be clear. This is more a 7 to 8 idea here. This is very intermediate, 7 to 8. Okay? The way these last two ideas are expressed and the ideas, that's more 9, okay? That's why it's 9. It's 9 because of the idea we'll diagnose. It's 9 because of the vocabulary, diagnose, fractured arm, okay, casted, wheelchair, physiotherapy, treatment for her knees, update on her condition. It's 9 or higher because of the grammar used, especially future passive over here. Future passive might feel, but also for 7 to 8s, let's take this as a lesson. Using may and might, that's stronger. That's something that intermediate levels need to do as well, okay? Because just using will and going to, that's 6 or lower. Because that's something that 6s know very easily, okay? So 7 to 8s, please try to use may and might, okay? And of course, everyone, we need to, level 9s, we need to speak and answer like this in 1 minute. With level 9 or higher, flow and intonation. What's that like? Well, flow slowly and continuously. Okay? Doesn't mean speed reading, no. Just means continuously. And intonation, well, you're going to hear me at different parts of the sentence, whether it's a start, middle, or end. I'm going to stress it according to how it should be stressed. Okay? That's intonation. All right. So please follow along as I read this in 1 minute. All right, here we go. I think several interesting situations will happen next. Firstly, I think the doctor will tell the orderly to drop off some sanitation supplies to one patient's room. So he's going to drop them off. Then after that, he may go on his coffee break because he seems tired. Secondly, perhaps the physician in the lab will diagnose the patient with a fractured arm. So he's going to call the patient from the waiting room and tell them that they need to get their arm casted. Then the patient might feel very disappointed because they won't be able to work due to the accident. Lastly, I think the nurse and patient in the wheelchair will help the elderly woman walk to the physiotherapy room because she might be scheduled to get some physio treatment for her knees. Then, after the treatment, the physio is going to walk the patient back to her room and provide the nurse with a medical update on her walking condition. Okay. Well, you saw there how I was able to speak that answer in 1 minute. Of course, I was able to because these ideas are not there. It's general English, right? It's not so academic. And of course, I hope that you noticed that in some parts I stressed my pitch was higher and lower in some parts. Okay, that's what we need to practice. That's what we need to practice, everyone. To develop this kind of answer, we need to practice reading it. We need to read and understand, particularly how ideas were expressed. Okay? How did we express these predictions? How did we go from one part to the next? Okay? That's very important. And also very important, how we expressed using our vocabulary and grammar. Okay? How did we express using future passive here? And won't be able to over here. Okay? That's very important to understand. And also, I do want to make one more point, how we connected ideas between each part, how we expanded them. Doing this because of this, then after that, that. It's very important to read and understand that, okay? Secondly, it's very important to read and practice speaking this answer in 1 minute, as I did, to improve your flow and intonation. The more that you practice speaking in 1 minute, the more you will develop your flow and intonation, okay? And for that, everyone, I will be leaving a link in the description box to this sample lesson, okay? So you can practice speaking the answer, reading and speaking, okay? And lastly, everyone, after you read it, I don't know how many times. Well, I can tell you one thing. The level 9s, after reading this answer maybe even once or twice, well, level 9, 2 or 3 times, but level 10 or higher, maybe once or twice. After that, they should be able to speak that answer without reading. Level 9s from their knowledge, not memory. They will be able to say that the physician in the lab will probably diagnose the patient with a fractured arm. So then they're going to call the patient into the room and inform them of the bad news. You see how I'm just saying that? Not saying it exactly, but something similar. Okay? They should be able to say that the nurse is going to walk the patient into the physiotherapy room to get her treatment. Okay? All right, so that's the last thing that we need to do. We need to try to speak the answer in 1 minute without reading. Okay, the more times you read, the more that you can develop that knowledge. Okay. Also, everyone, let's not forget about our CELPIP library. Our CELPIP library has over 50 examples of speaking part 4, and these examples will really help you with building your speaking part 4 knowledge and skills. So I strongly recommend it. And because you've watched this video all the way till the end, with discount code CELPIP79, that's discount code CELPIP79, you can get a 3-month subscription of CELPIP Library for only $10.99. That's a great deal, everyone, and I strongly recommend it. So let's subscribe to the CELPIP Library, and let's remember, practice makes perfect.